If you're a chanter, whether you're taking lessons or learning on your own, it's absolutely crucial for you to develop the ability to assess and analyze your own chanting in order to figure out what you're doing well and what needs improvement. And in this video, we're going to talk about exactly how you can do that. So my name is Nathan, and I teach Byzantine chanting online, and my videos cover, topics related to, anything related to Byzantine chanting. So if you're wanting to learn more about Byzantine chanting, this is the place. So how do we analyze our own chanting? Because even if you have a teacher, that teacher is not necessarily going to always be there with you. So sometimes you need to put in the work on your own of analyzing and reflecting and seeing how you can improve your chanting. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing you're going to need is an app that is found on most, probably all cell phones, and that is a voice recording app. So basically you want to use that app and you want to record yourself at every service, every time you chant. Not only every service, this also applies to every time you practice, right? So you want to do it both at services and when you practice. And the same thing kind of applies either way. Now, this is important. Where you place the phone is a big deal. So keep in mind, when you record yourself, what you're hearing is not just your voice. You are hearing your voice from the perspective of your cell phone microphone. Keep in mind. So where the microphone is placed, where the cell phone is placed, will influence what exactly you're going to be hearing. So you should start off by putting your phone somewhere on the chanter stand, if you're able to, not in the way of other people or where it can get knocked over, and not blocked by anything, not covered by books or anything. You want to figure out where technically the microphone is on your phone. So like press record, just to test it, press record on your phone and tap the sides of it and then listen back to which tap is louder, basically. And that's where the side that has the microphone. I assume it's towards the bottom, but basically you want that side to be facing you, not facing the other way, right? Because you want to pick up your voice. So the recording you'll get from this sort of placement is going to show you various things about your voice. For example, the tone quality, right? So if your tone is nasal, as in I'm talking about a bad type of nasal, as in thin, or what we would call reedy, and coming out of the nose, right? Or too blatty or harsh sounding. Things like this, you will most likely be able to detect from this recording, as the reverberation and acoustics of the church can often camouflage this to the extent where you don't realize you're doing it, right? But by putting the phone close to you when you're recording, you'll be able to get an accurate sense of your sort of tone and vocal production. Along the same lines, you'll also be able to detect things like an unstable or unsupported or wobbly sort of tone, whether you're flat or sharp in general, and individual pitches or notes that are off pitch. Listening to yourself also, by the way, on the live stream video, if your church does that, is another great way to hear your voice close up. So now it must be noted that this specific sort of placement of your phone is actually not going to give you the full picture as to how you actually sound. There's more to the equation, because remember, you're just hearing, like I said, you're not necessarily hearing your voice in the exact same way that the people in the congregation are hearing it. you're hearing it from your phone microphone, which is a little bit different. So things can be missed. So here's the sort of second step to getting the full picture, to being able to properly analyze your own chanting. That is, you want to put your phone somewhere farther away from you when you're chanting. Now, I understand this is harder to do. It's not always ideal depending on your parish, right? But if you can put your phone somewhere far away from where you are, somewhere at a distance, maybe on some shelf, somewhere away from you. Or worst case scenario, if you can't do that, put it on the ground. Just put your phone on the ground next to you if you're able to. And basically what this does is you're going to try to get a sense of how your voice sounds from a distance, or how it's coming out of the church speakers if you have that sort of setup with a microphone and speakers. In other words, to some extent, you're going to hear how others are hearing it in a general sense. So this is very important to getting the sort of the full picture. From this, you'll be able to see things like how well you're projecting, right? Because if you've got a very weak, quiet voice and you put the phone far away and you can't hear it, well, it's like, especially if you can hear the other chanters but you can't hear yourself, it gives you a sense of how much you're projecting, the overall strength or power of your voice, as well as the outer, tone or color. Is it overall too bright, too dark? Is also the quality of your diction, like how well are you articulating the words that you're chanting? Can people understand? Can you, from the recording, understand what you are chanting, right? And along the same lines, the placement of your voice. Is it forward, like it's supposed to be? Is it too forward? We don't want that. I mean, you want it forward. We want it very forward. And we don't want it in the back, falling back. We don't want the tone going back or sounding constricted or anything like that. Those types of things you can detect from recording, especially from this sort of distance. So that's basically how you correctly record yourself. And the same applies to when you're practicing at home. You can do basically the same thing. And if you can make an effort to record yourself in both settings, some days close up, some days far away, you can kind of put it together and get a fairly accurate picture as to how you're actually sounding to other people. So now, what do we do with this information, right? Well, I'll tell you what I do with my students. And by the way, if you want to become one of my students, if you want to give it a try, if you're a busy person, but you still want to learn how to chant, you might not have the time for intensive study and going to the seminary or going to Greece or something like that, but you still want to learn, you still want to apply these skills in your parish and improve as much as you can can just click the link in the description. You can schedule a free online lesson on your schedule, and I'm very flexible to my students and their specific goals, and it'll be just an individual lesson, just us. You can give it a try for free. So what do I do with my students to help them with this? Because sometimes, my students will send me a recording of their chanting, and I will analyze it using my knowledge of the voice, of the vocal technique, and things like that. Well, the first step is identifying a negative aspect of their chanting, something that we could work on, something that's maybe lacking, or something that needs to be fixed, right? Let's say, for example, let's take a random example. Their pitch is sharp, let's say. So after identifying this and pointing out, okay, the pitch is a bit sharp, as in it's above where it should be in terms of the pitch, I would work with them to explore all the possible reasons why they would be chanting sharp. So there can be multiple reasons, right? And it's important in general to educate yourself about the voice, the vocal production, the parts of the body used in singing, and what the healthy vocal production would look like. And I have plenty of videos on this topic on my channel, which would be good to go back and sort of watch those. So at this point, I would work with the student we would try to focus in on one or two of the main reasons that they specifically might be singing sharp. And once we identify that, we would talk about what they can work on in order to basically fix that sharp singing. Usually, at least from the perspective of a beginner, the solution to the problem doesn't seem to be directly related to the actual problem. For example, let's say somebody's pitch is sharp. You would think that they just maybe don't know the notes. We just need to do more paralagi. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's because of something they're doing with their body. For example, over supporting. We need breath support, but if we do too much breath support to the point where we're locking it and overdoing it, this can actually cause the sharp singing. So it might not even be that they don't know what the pitches or notes are supposed to be. It could be a physical sort of issue that is hard for the chanter themselves to hear in the moment. Because in their head they know what the note is supposed to be, but because of how they're using their voice, it's coming out sharp. So basically the issue or the cause of the sharp singing is not always what you would think it would be. And this applies to many different issues. It applies to being flat. It applies to a lot of different things. So hopefully now you can get a sense of the general idea and the process involved with analyzing your chanting, identifying issues, and finding the solutions to correct these issues. And it goes without saying that this process can be applied to basically any issue or shortcoming that you may experience as a chanter, right? So it can also be applied to issues that you notice as far as the way you read or interpret the music. There may be certain things like your intervals, maybe something like that. Certain things that you may be doing that are not so good that you didn't realize you were doing until you heard the recording. You can use this to go back and correct yourself. And a lot of this stuff maybe can be corrected through a more thorough study and the practice of the more theoretical side of things, paralagi and scales, and there's always that to work on as well. Not to mention that the same process can and should be used to identify and emphasize the positive aspects of your chanting, which you notice in your recording. Some days we listen to a recording of ourselves and you say, wow, I did a good job that day. And sometimes you don't even realize why you did a good job. It's just like it just happened. So we can use this same process. A lot of times when we chant, we do things that we do things without even thinking, right? And you can listen back to your recording and identify the things you did well and what it felt like physically when you were chanting well, and almost reverse engineer things in a sense to take those positive things you were doing and make it an intentional part of what you consistently do as a chanter. So you have complete control over everything you're doing, and you can repeat it every time. And while you can absolutely do all of this on your own, the only downsides would be that, one, you may miss certain things in your chanting because you lack an outsider's perspective. I mean, this is definitely true in my experience, as to this day I still continue to seek out feedback from other people who are more experienced than me, as they often see things that I myself might miss. That's just the nature of when you try to do something completely on your own. You need that outside perspective. It's very, very important. You need someone to sometimes give you a reality check and say, oh, you really missed this. And I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, I did miss it, but I didn't even realize. It's very common, right? That happens to everybody. Number 2, it may take a lot longer for you to actually identify the issues that are going on and the actual root cause, and implement the solutions to whatever issues you might be noticing. Right? It's going to take a while, as opposed to having a teacher to kind of speed up the process and guide you through the process, because they hopefully have already been through that experience in themselves of correcting themselves and improving and fixing whatever issues they had, so they can easily help you to do it. So this is how you use recordings, the voice recording app, to reflect and analyze your own chanting so you can make the necessary improvements. I hope this was helpful for you, for your own personal journey as a chanter. And if you know someone who you think would benefit from this, definitely send it to them. The word of mouth sharing helps me a lot. And God bless you.